loaf tea.
Lemon glazed loaf tea.
Mm-hmm.
Does it taste like lemons and sugar? Hi, Barbie.
Hi, Barbie.
Hello, my darlings. This is another episode of Ink Medicine Podcast. I'm here with my friend Kinky Barbie. Hi, Barbie.
Hi, Barbie.
Will you please introduce yourself? I'd like to hear your name, Kinky Barbie, and your pronouns and some of your identity markers.
Sure.
And also your favorite sex toy.
Yeah, so for today, Kinky Barbie is my name. And I am a kinky, queer, poly, switchy, witchy, femme of center person. As you can tell from my accent, I'm not originally from California. I was born and raised in Southern Appalachia, and I moved to California 22 years. It's been 22 years. I use her, they pronouns. She, they. I'm not particular about my pronouns. Even a good hearty sir sometimes is very fitting.
And what's your favorite? Let's narrow it down, like an impact toy.
Oh, favorite impact toy. As a top, I would say the cane. Cane is my favorite impact toy. And if I am bottoming, maybe also the cane in the right hands. And I would say just my overall favorite sex toy right now is a set of wonderful belts that Mr. S Leather comes out with. It's about a set of 5, and they come in different sizes, the 5, and they're made for restraint around the body. So they don't really pinch, they get snug, but they're very comfortable, and everyone seems to love them. I love them.
So they're fun. Like, literally they look like belts, like something you would wear as a piece of clothing, but then you use them for the body. They're just wider. That's fascinating.
They're a little bit wider. Yeah.
Heard of this.
Correct. So I would say they're, different lengths have different widths. So the longer ones have a nice thick width for like upper body. You can wrap it around the chest and around the shoulders to kind of keep the arms nice and snug and swaddled in leather.
That sounds lovely.
Yeah, I think it's kind of a comforting feeling for most of us.
Let's go back to the beginning.
Sure.
Once upon a time, you had a long-term partner, and I had met your partner on a dating app.
Mm-hmm.
And I was dating your long-term live-in partner for like 9 months.
Yes, this is true. True story.
Will you please give your perspective on that time of when we met? Will you tell me the story of how we met?
It was so long ago that my memories get foggy, and my recollection is that you were dating my partner at the time, and we had decided to meet, and so you were going to come over for dinner. And in my recollection, I made a terrible soup that would not finish cooking. It just would not get done. And I remember you bringing flowers, lovely, lovely flowers, and sitting in my kitchen waiting for the soup to never finish and having conversation that just flowed, felt good. Your humor and your personality were coming through, and I just took an immediate liking to you.
I felt like it was very important to please the wife of your lover.
Mm.
Not please in a, in a sort of like checkmark kind of way, but like the human element of interacting with someone who's in an open relationship. The people that they're involved with are part of your world, even if you don't interact with them very much. So, of course, I wanted to make a good impression on you.
And, my takeaway, coming from Southern culture was like, oh, this is someone who, despite, it didn't matter what our connection was. It was that you showed up, you were on time, you were respectful, you brought flowers, which is just what you do when you want to get to know someone, and you show up being open and curious, right? And that's what I just really respected and appreciated about your presence that evening.
Was that not your experience of other people your partner dated?
It varied. I would say you were probably the most curious and open and engaged. And I don't think that's always easy to do with the long-term partner of someone new that you're dating. Like, that can be a very intimidating situation for many folks. So I had a lot of respect for your curiosity and just showing up, being ready to engage.
And time went on, and I stopped dating your then partner.
Mm-hmm.
But we kind of circled back around to each other. What's your recollection of that time?
Wow. I think I had wanted to go dancing one night, and I didn't have anyone to go with. And so I made a social media post of like, is anybody available to go dancing? And yeah, you stepped up. You're like, I want to go dancing tonight. And we went dancing in the Castro. And I do remember being in a bar that was mostly fellas, gay men.
As the Castro goes.
Yeah. And I remember it being packed and hot and sweaty. So yeah, that was fun. That was a fun night.
Did we make out?
Yeah, I think so. We were both drinking, and it's like, oh, let's give this a try, and it was fun. Yeah. I think that's the only time, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. But again, there was that openness and that curiosity, right? That I was like, oh, look at that openness and curiosity. I'm just going to gravitate towards that.
And I think there's also just this element of queerness, at least for me, that especially when I was younger, when I was in my 20s, that most of my friends started out as like ambiguous, like, is this person someone I really like and want to emulate? Is this person somebody I want to make out with? Like, it just was never really straightforward in the beginning, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So I would say most of my close friends at some point tried something with and then been like, oh, but okay, we're like actually just supposed to be friends and like chosen family. But yeah, it was that was a fun night. It was the first time. I mean, I was intimidated by you. You were like so cool.
Oh, which is funny for me to hear because I find myself to be rather goofy and awkward.
You know, there's an element to you that, and I think we all have, everybody who is told they're intimidating, right? Like I get told this sometimes too. And I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, I'm so, you see what you get. Like, ask me anything, you know? But for you, there's an element of like mystery that remains always. Like, there's a part of you that you keep very private.
Mm-hmm.
And so that I could always feel that, like, as open as you are, as much as I can ask you any question, as much as you'll tell me whatever, there's still, I don't know if it's just energetic or if it's like, you know, literal information, but there's this like secret chamber in you that is like the mystery. And I think that's where the intimidation can come from for some folks. And other things are just like, you're really smart. You are really, you know a lot. Like those things intimidating to a lot of people also.
Oh, I don't know how much I know, but I can definitely be direct about things I do know.
I mean, you are a doctor after all.
Well, yes, I feel sometimes like that meme of the Muppet Grover from Sesame Street in a doctor's coat.
What does the meme say? I don't know this meme.
Trust me, I'm a doctor.
Oh, that one.
Yes, sometimes, you know, there are the things I know about. And I'm always, I think the sign of when I know myself that I know something is when I'm willing to not argue about it and just be like, yeah, okay. Like, I don't need to argue with someone about something that I know. And I'm always open to having data or research or even, you know, especially people's lived experiences to change my opinion. I kind of watch for places where I get rigid in my thinking. And to me, that's usually a sign I don't really probably know as much as I think I do. I want to backtrack for a second. I was thinking about that like secret chamber thing. I like that is it a metaphor or analogy? Metaphor?
Yeah, metaphor.
Metaphor. I hear that sometimes, and I used to think, no, I'm not like that. But yes, I am. I have come to accept that there's a part of me that, and it's different parts with different people. Not everyone has access to. And, you know, there's parts of me that, for example, only you and a handful of other people have access to, right? There's parts of me that only my partners or lovers will ever be able to access. There's parts of me that only my parents or my sibling can access. And there can be some emotional walls there, or compartmentalization is probably a better description, because it's not so much a wall that I can't walk through. I can. It's by choice. And that's something that I continue to explore. Does it serve me? Does it not? Does it get in the way of forming genuine, authentic connections? Is it protective? Or is it more about safety in a healthy way? So I don't I don't know yet, but that's something that I do continue to explore in conversations like this, through journaling, therapy, all the stuff. But yes, long COVID, yeah, that's something that I struggle with, and it is, it's a bitch.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
that's the thing is about it, right? We don't know very much about it, and there's all the things that could help you experimental. So, yeah, that sounds incredibly difficult.
It can be. I think one of the top two most difficult things about it, one is just not being able to do the things you want to do,
Mm-hmm.
Not having the energy for them. And then the second frustrating thing is to not be understood.
Right. Very few people can understand what you're going through.
Mm-hmm. I find most people that get it have autoimmune disorders and live their life through pacing and spoon theory, as I do now. But for the majority of folks in my life, that's something that's not part of their lived experience. And so it can kind of be difficult for them. I do think that as more time goes by, the people I'm closest to, even if that's not their lived experience, are starting to get it. They're starting to understand.
Mm-hmm.
Slowly.
Yeah. I mean, I'm always grateful when you're able to come out and hang out and do something. Like go see the Barbie movie last week.
I really enjoyed that. And I really appreciate you allowing me to give you an answer last minute. Because I didn't know. I didn't know how I was going to feel. But
yeah,
it worked out.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things that I do miss is tattooing you.
Mm-hmm.
We've taken a break since you've been dealing with health stuff. And, you know, of course, COVID also in general put some brakes on my work with many of my regular canvases. But you and I have a really beautiful body of work on you over the course of now, however many, like 10 years or something.
Yeah.
I really love what we have done. There's not working on each person is not the same for me, right? Like not just because of the subject matter of the work, but the flow state in which I can get into with each person and the amount of trust and the type of art that the person is interested in and how it intersects with my interests
mm-hmm.
and what I want to be tattooing. And, you know, I think there's probably like literal list we could make of like how our interests intersect in that space. But there's just this energetic flow that happens. That's so like it is so fun and easy to work on you. And the kinds of things we've been doing, they are also somewhat experimental, like white work, white dots, and then also black dots, black work, and scales, like all this type of stuff. It's also, and then the decorative elements on your back. It's all very interesting and exciting for me as an artist. So yeah, like that's always also not always for the last 10 years been a part of our connection and a part of the intersection of our energies and interests, is that tattoo work we've been doing on you. And like that's some of my favorite work that I've done ever,
I have such it can be kind of difficult to describe in a way, to verbalize and be articulate about my bodily experience around tattoo, because for me, it's not just about depiction, but identity. And part of why I love my body is because of the artwork that's displayed on it. And I would say, if someone were to ask me, like, how would you describe your tattoo work? I would have to say that it's like a growing vine. It's definitely an organic creation that is in flux. It's not something that is stationary, at least not most of the work we've done. Some of it is stationary, but even those stationary pieces are in flux. We do change them around. So the body work, for your listeners who can't see me, is it's a full body goal, and it is organic and in growth, with the front side being mostly white work and the back side being black work. And our current thought is that it will be shades of gray in the middle parts, but where they intersect. But for me, part of the joy is how it represents me constantly growing and changing. And then the joy of what we create together, of like, as I was speaking to someone the other day, I think with you were there, I think, was that half of the work, majority of the work, isn't the inking, putting the ink into the skin. It's the drawing and the collaboration, and you being an artist and drawing on my body and trying to work with my Barbie curves, and still staying true to who you know me to be within that work.
That's where it's really, that's the ease of it, is like there's something about the combination of your specific body, my eye, the way that I see things, and your energy that really works well together. And that's not always the case with every person, of course.
Yeah, I agree with that statement. And I also think occasionally I can get a little like, no, I don't know. What do I think? I don't know. But mostly I'm not worried about us, finger quote, messing something up, because it's in growth. Like, if you and I create something and I sit with it and I don't particularly feel affinity towards it, I can say, hey, Micah, man, this part or this piece that we worked on recently, I'm not feeling the pull. And you'll be like, no problem. We're going to, shift it. Yeah. And that's something that I no longer show up to any body modification appointments being like, am I going to mess something up?
Yeah, well, that's the piece too that, that I know, like, it's not about not ever making a decision that might not be the ideal decision. It's more that I trust you to tell me. Not everybody will tell me, I'm sure it's happened with people, and people haven't told me that they weren't feeling it 100%. And then you might live it and like live into it and feel fine if we'll start to feel, fine. And I have pieces of my body like that too, where I was like, I'm not sure why I got that piece. Like, why did I do that? And then be like, it's fine. Like, it belongs there, Yeah. But I trust you to tell me, which is a huge thing, to trust you to tell me if you're not 100% happy with something. And then I trust you to trust me to shift it. And that those different types of trust in this process are just so very important for there to be this like good, easy flow. That's also part of it.
In a way, that reminds me of what we were just talking about how certain things, in your experience of me, certain parts seem reserved or withheld or at a distance. And I would say that there's something that you have access to in me that most people will never have access to, which is that kind of trust around creation and permanency. There is permanency in this, even if it is growing and changing.
And taking care of soul through taking care of the body.
Absolutely. There's not a lot of people in my life that have access to that kind of trust from me. I'm definitely more of a skeptical cat when it comes to like, oh, you want to do something permanent to my living house? I don't know. I don't know about that. But when we work together, my experience is one of collaboration and trust, in a way that I don't experience with a lot of people. And I don't know how much people really stop to consider their relationship with a tattoo artist. For me, there's growth that's come through our work together because of who you are and who I am, and how that works together, and how important that is if someone finds identity in their body art.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I was also going to touch upon, I think of you as somebody who is very heavily body modified without outwardly looking like you are.
This is true.
Which is one of the Freaky Barbie pieces. Can you recount some of your body mods for the listeners who, well, also they wouldn't be able to see them on you because you can't tell when you just look at you. But if you don't mind, recount some of your different body mods.
Sure.
And I will make this episode explicit so people know.
I was about to say, you probably don't want any underage listeners necessarily.
Yeah. I don't think that I have too many, but we'll just make it explicit just in case.
Yeah, and the adults in those folks' life can screen it and make a decision, I guess. I don't know. So yes, it obviously, folks, I have some tattoo work. I have quite a bit, actually, and it will continue to grow. Over the years, I've also had many piercings, and I do also have scarification work. And most of that scarification work, though, is within the realm of ritual. The piercings, some of them were done as just pure aesthetic. Some done as ritual. The most recent is ritual. So yes, if you are looking at me, it is hard to tell that I have so many body modifications. And I used to have a septum piercing, which people could see. And my Southern mother threatened she chased me, actually. I was a grown-ass adult, and she chased me trying to get a hold of my septum piercing. Oh, Southern mamas, I tell you.
Well, that one is like that is like the most basic one of your piercings.
It is, but that was the most visible one.
Yes.
I did have nipple piercings for quite a long time, and eventually that was just too irritating.
How many ounces of metal do you feel like you might have below the belt?
I don't know in ounces. I was starting at the top and moving my way down. I started at the septum.
Let's hurry up and get to the good one.
I started at the septum and then nipples, and I don't have any of those anymore. I do have double belly rings.
I love your navel piercing because it's on the bottom.
No, mine are on the top.
Oh, yours on the top. That's right. Okay, yeah, they're like snake bites. I was like, there's something unique about it. They're like the snake bites.
They look like little snake bites. They are doubles, and I have some very lovely jewelry in there right now that I purchased from Goldfinger. People want some high quality body jewelry. That's a great company to check out.
Paul, yeah.
Paul Stoll.
Mm-hmm.
And then even further below the belt, I have 6 outer labia piercings. And that was done in ritual. That was done by Paul Stoll, actually. He did that for me. And those piercings I got after a pretty intense separation from a partner, my long-term partner. And that was something I really needed for myself to heal. And the ritual part is like you experience something sharp and changing and lightning fast, and then it takes time to heal. So as the body heals through the piercings or through its process of healing around the piercings, so does the heart and the psyche. And that was a very difficult piercing to heal. Well, piercings.
6 piercings. It's a lot of piercings in one delicate area.
It is. And that means there's 12 points of skin that have to be tended to multiple times a day for quite a while. So 6 skin contact points that have to be babied and very carefully tended to. And the first year was a doozy trying to get that to heal properly. And it did. And I think I've had them for maybe 5 years now.
But they're big. What's the gauge on them?
12s right now.
Mm-hmm.
There are 12 due to the placement and gravity and friction. Those piercings will expand naturally over time. So I don't know if I'm creeping up on 10 yet. I think it's been 2 years since I tried to put a 10 in, but eventually they will get to be 10s.
And I don't know how to really describe it for folks who don't know much about piercings, but a regular like belly button barbell that a person might know what that looks like, that would be what, like a 20, 18, 20?
Most piercings are 14s.
14s? Okay.
14s, 16s, depending on the piercer, but most are 14s. It's kind of a standard. 16s and 14s are kind of standard piercing gauges. But you know what? Don't quote me on that. I'm not a piercer.
I'm not going to quote you on that. People will hear it. But I appreciate you have more certainty in that than I do. I was just thinking about how to describe, the bigger the number, or the smaller the number rather, the bigger the circumference of the metal.
Yes.
And so a 10 or a 12 is going to be quite a bit bigger than a 14 or 16, or 18 or 20. 18, 20 will be smaller than 14, 16. For
Correct.
Those folks who are unfamiliar with how piercings and piercing jewelry works.
People could think of it as like in a doctor's office, a needle is probably going to be like anywhere between like 26 and 36 gauge. And
right, for like an
injection.
That's right.
Or 22s, maybe 22 to 32, something like that. I don't know, but
so I'm considering also the other things that you have chosen to do to your body, to enhance your body with, to also be body modifications.
So yes, I have other things medically that I have done that I consider body modifications. I don't know why many people don't consider them body modifications, but I do. The most noticeable one is breast implants. And
I would not say they're noticeable at all, because they look like you were born with them.
Yeah, they are very natural. And that was something that I did in my early 20s. When I was 22, I had a scare. This was before I moved to California, right before I moved. I was graduating college in an undergraduate program, And my partner at the time, we were playing around, and she found a lump in my breast. And so they didn't want to just do a biopsy. At the time, they believed that doing a needle biopsy could, finger quote, seed cancer growth if it was a malignancy. And there's a very, very strong history of breast cancer in my family. So I was directed to a surgeon, and I also had part of long COVID is that you can't find certain words. Doctors that work with cancer.
Oncologists.
So I had an oncologist, and they decided to just go ahead and completely remove the lump. And it was precancerous. And they were able to remove the whole thing, and I didn't need any further treatment, and I was able to move on with my life and go to graduate school. But it did left some pretty intense painful scarring and mild disfigurement. And so 2 years later, it's like, I'm going to get breast implants.
Mm-hmm.
And I've loved them.
Mm-hmm. You've never had to like redo them or anything, right? They just, from the original time you had them done.
Correct.
They've lasted this long. Okay, good.
Yes, correct. They have. Now, eventually, as I age, I will have to
have them redone.
And I don't know what I'll do. I may not have new implants done. I may just have reconstruction done.
Is that different from, I didn't realize that was different from implants.
Yeah, reconstruction is using a person's own body, fat, skin, muscle, and just have the breast reconstructed without an implant. Sometimes I think people do put implants as part of reconstruction, but I think as I age, my bones would probably appreciate not having implants.
Like not having as much weight in the front, or
correct.
Is that what you mean? Like your back? Mm-hmm.
Correct. Back, shoulders, as we age, our muscles and our bones get kind of tired of lugging things around.
Yeah, fair.
As so many of us are familiar with.
And something else you said at some point when we were working, we were chatting about, I think, different like procedures people do. I think I asked you, have you heard of the fat freezing thing, right? Because I have a friend who is a esthetician,
mm-hmm.
and so she works in a clinic that's medical. It's not a clinic; it's a beautician, esthetician, whatever studio, and but they have medical machines and medical people doing those other more medical kind of types of things.
Mm-hmm.
And I had asked you, I don't know why I was thinking about it, but I was like, do you know about this stuff? And you were like, I've done it all. I've like had every procedure you can I've tried it all. I've experimented, like ask me anything.
Maybe not all of them, but
probably not all of them.
There's but a handful. Yes. There. And that one in particular I was like, do not waste your money.
Yeah. And I haven't wanted to do that, money wasting or otherwise, but what I love and loved about that conversation is just that you're like, I like to experiment. I like to play with things. I like to test things out. Like you sort of see your body as a playground and as a place that you can experiment and try things out. And but also as a person who clearly regards their body with much respect and reverence. It's both. And that to me is so kinky and fun. Even if it's not necessarily sexual, because I don't think of kink as being only a sexual thing.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment. And I would add that the body is the only one we get So it is precious. And to baby it, to not allow it to move, to grow, to change, by using it. Of course, we can grow and change by not using it. But if we don't let our body, this is my personal experience and my opinion, that by not allowing our bodies to move and experience some of the ouchies that come from movement, like running or lifting or playing games, we're doing a disservice to something that's meant to do those things. And we're not allowing our bodies or our minds to have a full human experience. It's like, no, of course, I don't want to accidentally cut myself, for example. But to allow the body to experience sensation in an intense way, which most people would call pain, but to allow the body to experience intense sensation in a way that's controlled, that's not harmful. Tattooing is one of those experiences, is to not allow the body to have or the psyche to have its full range of experiences. And I'm not talking about traumas, right? But things that we consciously have a choice in. So body modification, kink, playing sports, right? Treating our bodies as precious as they actually are. Like, we wouldn't keep a pet, we wouldn't keep a partner, we wouldn't keep a child of ours from going out and running across the field or going out on that swing set.
Some people do, right? And that's not considered healthy.
Yes, I agree.
I'm thinking about like a parent with a child that's overly protective, right? Mm-hmm. You would think that's a pathological safety keeping that's not actually going to work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. It's not going to work. So the experiences I like to have can definitely be edgy. I'm over here being edgy Barbie in a lot of ways. And is there risk? Of course. But I don't get to experience what my body's capable of without risk.
It's a famous quote by Fakir, is that he would say, "It's your body, play with it."
Yes.
I feel like you embody this teaching of his quite well.
Oh, I'm honored to hear you say that. Thank you.
And the other piece that I also early on, right, I feel like so much of our impressions of our friends and our people come from early on. Like, sometimes not, because things grow and change, of course, but in some ways, things that stick with you are things that you remember from early on. And I remember that you were dating and I set you up with somebody that I knew for a date, and you you had the date, and let's see, I don't know how to put this without sounding like a total dick, but when I was setting you up on this date, and this is not to say anything about this specific person, but you were like, I don't care what the person looks like. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm attracted to a range of different people. It's really more about the energy and the play energy and like the top and bottom energy and the, what happens with that person more than like how they look. And I also was like amazed. I love that, because as much as I have been attracted to a wide range of people, but I would say that for the most part, I am very influenced by what society says is attractive, and thus I tend to be attracted to people lots of other people find attractive. Mm-hmm. Not exclusively, but I just was like, this is amazing. Like, you're attracted to like just whoever. Like, people, based on them and not how they look. Like, I wish that was my story.
Yes.
But that's like, for me, part of you, and a part of the kink and the mystery and the body play of you, like that piece of you, that you're open to experiences and to like running through the fields, no matter what the field looks like, if it's green and grassy or if it's like boggy and has lots of like tree stumps on it.
Yes, because there are treasures that can be found in the bogs. Yes, I really appreciate you saying that. And it does come up sometimes when people are like, oh, what's your type? And anyone who really knows me kind of laughs at that question because I don't have a type. And when it comes to play, the factors are more about openness and curiosity and energy flow than anything else, more than age, size, gender. Never let language barriers really get in my way too much either. I find ways to negotiate, even if I've been, in another country. So I want that for everyone, because, and I don't think we can all have that experience. And I feel like even my own biases leak out, of course, influenced by culture. But yeah, I wish people weren't affected by our culture's stuff. Or, what is it that we find desirable is so largely connected to our childhood.
Did you grow up feeling attractive? Like, were you told by people around you, by the kids around you growing up, that you were hot, essentially?
I would say that I was known as a cute kid when I was super young. Like, I was cute and I was very mischievous. Like, I don't think my mom has a single picture of me under the age of 9 where I didn't have my tongue sticking out at the camera or making a face. I was very mischievous. But once I hit puberty, I was not attractive. It was, I had some very challenging hair.
Did you?
Oh, yes. It does. When I hit puberty, my hair was like, what would be a good idea? Unruly curls. I had curly hair, braces. I had an eye patch for a minute.
Okay.
Yeah. And then I went home back in my hometown sometime like maybe 10 years ago or something. And I ran into someone I graduated high school with. And the person was like, well, you grew up real pretty.
Oh.
It's like, I don't know how to take that. Thanks, I guess. But no, I was not really like classically attractive for most of my puberty.
And for you internally, so I know that in your 20s, was it your 20s when you were dancing?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
So,
for money. What happened like between that time and that time when you were going into doing, I will call it sex work light?
mm-hmm. Sure. Mm-hmm.
How did you conceptualize of yourself, as you were deciding you would be doing that? Like, if you had grown up as a teenager not feeling attractive?
Oh, I didn't say I didn't feel attractive.
Oh, you didn't feel like other people saw you that way, but you felt attractive inside.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh, I have this body that is fun. I was athletic. I was strong. I did not shy away from, I didn't find sex to be a horrible, nasty, sinful, put that in finger quotes, thing. I was kind of raised to see it as just a natural part of the human experience. So I didn't feel unattractive. I knew I was not the like classic attractiveness, but I knew that I had a strong, healthy body, and I felt that. I used it a lot. I used my body a lot.
Did you start having sex young?
Pretty average, around
like 16 or something.
Yeah, right around 16. So, and then, I went off to college and I was working on a degree, and I had always been kind of like, I was like, something's wrong here. Something's wrong in the world, in my experience of the world. Something's wrong in how things operate. And I never could put my finger on it. And then I went off to college and I was like, holy shit, how is no one in high school talking about patriarchy? Why is this the first time I'm ever hearing this word? And that I had to stop dating men because I was just not, I was really struggling with the entitlement that I was coming up against of like boys ages 18 to 22. And I definitely boys. They were not men. They were boys. And there's just so much entitlement that I could not bear to be around them. But I moved to California to go to graduate school, and one of my fellow classmates was like, hey, you're healthy, you're strong, you have a nice Southern accent. I am an exotic dancer. Maybe you should give it a try because you're going to grad school and working a full-time job and you can barely pay your bills. So I went in with this friend and she got me all set up, and I started exotic dancing, and I did that for 2 years. Then I took a break, and then I did it for another 2 years. And that really helped me pay the bills through grad school. I did have to stop before I finished school because I needed to start doing placements and internships and things like that. But I would say that at that point, I came into my body in a new way, in a way I hadn't experienced it. Still strong, still feeling playful in it. But I realized that a lot of people want access to it. Ew, gross, right? Well, I built up this great way of like, oh, yeah, I want you to have access to it. I don't want you to have access to it. Or if I was working, it's like, I want you to have this 1 inch depth of access to it. And sometimes I loved that work, absolutely loved it. It was entertainment, not only for them, but for me. It was hard work. It made me feel strong, very physical work. Other times I had terrible experiences, mostly around entitlement of men. But for the most part, 90% of my interactions were, simple, kind exchanges. And I also never did full nude work. So that probably contributed to my time of contentment when I was an exotic dancer. I never did full nude work. And I also came up with this great visualization that really helped me, which was that I am a womanly shape made out of snakes. So I no longer have flesh and bone and organs and blood pumping. I have just a a writhing mass of snakes. And I really loved that. As you know, I'm very partial to snakes.
Instead of like two kids stacked in a coat, you are a bunch of snakes stacked in a dress.
I was like a bunch of snakes stacked in a thong bikini.
Yeah. I feel like I need to draw this for you now.
I would love to see what you would come up with. There's no way to not have it be comical. It's like just a body of snakes in, a negligee.
And that is why you have an armful of snake scales.
I do. Yeah. I do. And I think I also have snake scales on the backs of my ankles. Yeah, I do.
Yeah, you have a little bit. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Snakes are very, in my experience, very gentle creatures, but they contain so much of our human fear in their image. And for me, that shedding of old skin is also a very important part of human life, that the snake physically manifests.
Are we planning on a snake tattoo beyond the being of the snake inside the scales?
I don't think so. I don't know. Who knows?
Who knows?
It's a mystery. I do think that these scales that your listeners can't see me pointing to will, I think we had talked about slowly fading to gray and then to white down towards
that would be beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I will want, when we're making a post about this episode,
mm-hmm.
I'd love to put maybe some pictures of the tattoos if we're not, putting
Sure.
a really obvious
other
photo of your lovely face.
Sure.
Yeah.
I'm comfortable with that.
So what's next on your roster for body modifications? Do you have a plan for the next 10, 20 years, or is it all just as it comes?
I think as it comes. So much is dependent upon health. But as far as body modifications, tattoo work is at the top of my list. I don't have any piercings or scars or any medical procedures on my to-do list. I think right now, the way my immune system reacts, even tattoo work would be a challenge. But that's at the top of my to-do list, is getting in to spend time with you and collaborating together.
Mm-hmm. I was thinking recently about getting, there's a juice of a fruit that some people use to create henna-like. It's like a henna-like experience, but it's dark blue, almost black, and not brown. So I was thinking about getting some of that to play with maybe more intense tattoo. I know you're not interested in black work on your neck or anything, but I was thinking about getting some of that stuff to play with things like, big, heavier pieces on myself and other people, if you want to try it out and see what it's like. And
it's permanent?
No, it's not. It's lasts for 2 weeks.
Oh.
Yeah.
I'd be curious. Is it the same process though? A needle stimulating?
No, it's like henna. Yeah. You drawing on the skin with the juice, and then it stains the skin, and it lasts for about 2 weeks.
Okay. I'm down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought you might be something, since you can't really be tattooed right now.
That would be fun. That would be fun to experiment with the back piece that we're working on.
Mm-hmm.
Because we haven't spoken about it, but it's been on my mind of some vining and growth that I would like to do back there.
I want to share another little story that makes me smile when I think about it, about the back piece.
Yes.
Is when we were...
I'm already laughing.
You came in for a session and we were like having little shot glasses of wine.
Oh, yes.
I had some like wine left over in the shop from some event, and I was like, let's have a little tiny bit of wine. They were like literally little shot glasses. And so we had a couple little shot glasses of wine, you know, felt just a little sparkly and warm, not really like buzzed by any means. And we're working, and you're like, Micah, I love you. And you're like, just, do your thing on me. And if you like make a mistake, I don't care. You're just like going on about how you're like, everything's fine. Like, you can just do your thing. It's all good. And I was like, okay, yeah, I love you too. Like, good. Like, I'm not planning on making mistakes. But we had worked on a specific piece in the middle of your back. And I think I probably talked you into it being a little bigger than you were wanting originally. And you were saying all this stuff. And I was like, yeah. And then the next day you were like,
I think I called you or texted you.
You called me. You're like, I think it's too big. And I was like, yeah, I remember what you said yesterday.
Okay.
But also I said, it's okay. We'll, live with it. I think you will live into it. It will feel fine, but you got to get used to it.
Which is exactly what happened.
Yeah.
And I do think that those little tiny bits of wine, I do think what I said was true, though. That was the truth serum, like, I do trust you in this process, and I am not concerned about mistakes because it is growing and changing.
Yes, it's just, it was just so funny to now think about.
But the next
you were like in that space, like so relaxed and being like, it's all good. And the next day you were like, I'm sober. This is too big.
When my rational mind kicked in. Yeah. Oh my God, what did I do? But no, it turned out that it is a lovely size. And I did just need time to let my mind catch up in the perception of the piece. When I look at it now, it doesn't seem big at all.
No, and it's the root of other things.
Yes.
So, it makes sense to be that size.
And I keep a lot of this covered. A lot of people don't see the size. A lot of people don't see my work at all and have no idea that I am modified, other than the occasional someone will notice that I have some white ink work on my chest. But for the most part, my presentation in the world is not one of being a heavily modified person, even though I am. And
but that's the contrast and dichotomy, that is part of the fascination, of like the different pieces of you coming together, is that, you'll wear a librarian little sweater with little buttons and a really thin gold jewelry and
partial to cardigans.
Yeah, but like you have this appearance of being like really proper, really like, I'm going to put quotation marks, like normal around that word.
Sure.
Yeah. And I love contrast in the world. I love it when people are unexpected, when you look at them and they look one way and they're totally somebody different inside, but it makes sense. It works. Like, it's not incongruent. It's just contrasting and interesting and layered and deep. And that's what, it's sort of like what I wanted to bring to the front in this conversation. And even though people can't see you, so they can't get the full gist of what I'm saying, I think we succeeded in that. Yeah,
I think so. The questions you ask are topics that I normally do not just discuss with folks. They're questions that I answer for people in my personal life, and now for all your listeners too. But most people meet me and it doesn't occur to them that that would be a topic of conversation with me. I have a very conventional presentation, and underneath it is a lot of weirdness. And I love that. I love weirdness. I love weird people. And I would say that my presentation also doesn't invite people to ask questions. Kind of to your point earlier, there are pieces of me that seem reserved, distant. Distance probably the wrong word, but often inaccessible. But if I'm having an experience with someone and they seem like an open, curious person who's grounded, and this is where the conversation starts to flow to, and they start asking me questions, I will often answer them. As you know, if someone asks me something direct, I will answer them. And I don't do that in order to avoid interesting conversation. But because those are not topics that everyone wants to talk about, or, maybe I'm not in the mood, or maybe my answer would actually have to involve a third party and I don't want to speak for them or about them.
And you have healthy boundaries.
And I do have healthy boundaries. Well, I try anyway. It is a practice. Boundaries are a practice.
Yes, they are an ever-present practice. Speaking of boundaries, this is all the time that I promised you I would take of you.
Oh, yes. I wasn't even watching the clock.
And I'm going to ask you my last sort of standard question I ask everybody.
Oh, no. I don't have an answer for this.
I feel like you could come up with one.
Okay.
What's a small thing that's been making you happy lately?
Oh, this is not the one I thought it was going to be. Okay. A small thing that has been making me happy lately is peanut butter.
I love this answer. This is exactly what I asked this question for. Like, fucking peanut butter. Someone out there is like, I haven't eaten peanut butter in like however long. Maybe I'll go have some peanut butter. It'll make them happy as well.
Don't forget about peanut butter, folks. It is good stuff as long as you don't have a nut allergy.
That's as long as that's the case. What are you putting your peanut butter on?
Oh my goodness.
Or just a spoon out of the jar.
I've been spooning it out of the jar. I also found a great recipe for peanut butter and a raw egg to make cookies. I mean, you bake them so the egg doesn't stay raw, but just peanut butter and egg cookies.
Okay.
Amazing. Give that a Google, peanut butter egg cookie.
Okay, I will give that a Google. Give that a Google, everybody. I will maybe put the recipe on the in the episode notes.
I'll see if I can find mine online, the one that I've been using, and I'll send it to you. But it's, for people who like fat bombs or people that want some high protein, but are just, maybe struggling with sugar or something like that. This is one of those comfort foods that is accessible to most of us who don't have a nut allergy. So
amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for coming on the podcast. It took us a minute to schedule it. I'm glad that we made it work, and I appreciate you being willing and open, and also just like being in my life and being one of my closest people. And I love you.
Well, I love you too. Thank you for inviting me. This is a practice in opening for me.